Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am sure all of you have heard about this vitamin, that is vitamin B12, and at some or the other time somebody must have asked you to take vitamin B12 tablets or injections, etc. Not familiar with the word vitamin B12? I'm sure you must have heard about words like neurokind, neurobion, etc. All these are vitamin B12. So now that we know that it is a very important, very commonly used medicine, supplement, vitamin, whatever you call it, in this video, let's look at it in great detail. Let's look at what exactly it is. How does the body get it? That is, what are the sources of it? How the body absorbs it? How can you get deficiency of it? And what are the problems if you get deficiency of it? And obviously, how to treat it. So make sure that you watch this video till the end so that you get complete information about vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is also called as cobalamin and it is a water soluble vitamin. Why is this important now? So the vitamins can be either water soluble or fat soluble. Fat soluble means it is water insoluble. If a vitamin is water soluble, then any excess amount of that vitamin will get easily excreted out in the urine. But if the vitamin is not soluble in water, obviously it is not possible for it to get excreted out in the urine. So in other words, more practical way of looking at it is, if a vitamin is water soluble, then even if there is excess amount of that vitamin in the body by whatever means, it is highly unlikely that you will have any problem because of its excess. This cobalamin or vitamin B12 is predominantly present in the non-vegetarian diet, but we'll go into that a little later. Before that, let's understand why is this so important. What does it do after all? Now, let's obviously not go into the exact biochemical reactions because that will become too deep, but in simple words, this vitamin B12 acts as a cofactor for the enzyme which is required in the synthesis of DNA. So as all of you know, DNA is the ultimate basis of life. Along with that, it is also required in the synthesis of fatty acids, in the synthesis of myelin. What is myelin? Yes, so myelin is basically a covering around the nerves. It is required for the faster conduction of signal along the nerves. In other words, no myelin means the nervous system is significantly affected. So now you know the relation between B12 deficiency and patient having a lot of nervous system problems. Now, the other thing obviously I told is it is required in the synthesis of DNA, which is an integral part of every cell. So if there is deficiency of B12, if the DNA synthesis is inadequate, obviously those cell lineages which need to divide very rapidly will get affected first, right? So one of such kind is the red blood cells in the blood. So the RBCs need to divide again and again and again and produce more and more new cells. So deficiency of B12 will lead to DNA synthesis damage, and as a result, the RBC production is hampered. This leads to anemia. This kind of anemia is called as megaloblastic anemia because the cells are large, they are not able to divide properly, and obviously they are not able to function properly. So I told that vitamin B12 is predominantly present in the non-vegetarian diet. Now what exactly do I mean by that? It means B12 is present mainly in red meat, fish, egg yolk, etc. Does it mean that the vegetarians will usually end up having B12 deficiency? Not necessarily, because B12 is also present in milk and milk products, because obviously they come from the animal source. But yes, if you follow a strict vegan diet, then there is a very high possibility that you will end up having B12 deficiency and you need to take B12 supplements in the form of tablets. So once you consume vitamin B12, how does the body absorb it exactly? So what happens is that B12 which you consume goes into the stomach, and in the stomach there are cells called as parietal cells which release a compound called as intrinsic factor. What does it do? It does nothing in the stomach. So it goes along with B12 out of the stomach into the small intestine. Small intestine has duodenum, jejunum and ileum. The terminal part, that is the end of the ileum, is where this intrinsic factor, which was released in the stomach, gets bounded to vitamin B12, and this complex gets absorbed in the terminal ileum. Let's look at how someone can end up having vitamin B12 deficiency. So one cause, as I mentioned previously, if somebody is following a very strict vegan diet, then yes, the patient can end up having B12 deficiency. But the thing is that usually our body stores vitamin B12 to a significant extent, and what they say is, if you have been on a non-vegetarian or vegetarian diet with good amount of dairy intake, and if you switch to vegan diet, it usually takes about 3 years for you to develop B12 deficiency. So this is one of the obvious causes of vitamin B12 deficiency. Apart from this, let's look at the other causes of vitamin B12 deficiency. As I told previously, it goes to the stomach, and in the stomach there is intrinsic factor which is released, and then it binds with B12 in the terminal ileum and the complex gets absorbed. Now imagine a situation where an antibody is produced against this intrinsic factor. That is, in simple words, the body is considering this intrinsic factor as hostile and trying to damage it. So in such a situation, obviously vitamin B12 cannot bind to the intrinsic factor and it will not get absorbed, and this kind of a situation is called as pernicious anemia. Thirdly, consider a situation you need stomach, you need terminal ileum for proper absorption of vitamin B12. What if one of these two parts are not functioning properly, or if one of these two parts are resected surgically for some or the other reason? That is, if the patient has undergone a partial or complete stomach resection, or if the patient has undergone ileum resection, then yes, either intrinsic factor will not be produced, or the place where it is supposed to get absorbed is not there at all. So this is the other way how a patient can develop vitamin B12 deficiency. So if the patient has vitamin B12 deficiency, it can lead to predominantly two types of problems. One is related to the nervous system, because there is no sufficient amount of myelin which is not getting produced because of deficiency of B12. So as a result of that, patient develops a condition called as subacute combined degeneration of the spinal cord. It can also lead to dementia and other problems. So the other problem in addition to nervous system problem is, as I mentioned previously, megaloblastic anemia, because the RBCs are not able to divide properly and the person is not having sufficient amount of functioning RBCs. Well, there can be other problems too, like cardiovascular complications, which can be either because of anemia itself, or it can be because of accumulation of one of the compound called as homocysteine. Now, I will not go into the detail why homocysteine gets elevated in case of B12 deficiency, but in simple words, just remember that because of some biochemical alterations, deficiency of vitamin B12 can lead to elevation of homocysteine levels, and this homocysteine can cause a lot of cardiovascular problems. So broadly, these are some of the problems which the patient can have in case of deficiency of vitamin B12. So we looked at what exactly is vitamin B12, what are the sources, how it gets absorbed, how can one develop deficiency, and what happens if there is deficiency. Now all this thing is over. Now what to do if the patient is having vitamin B12 deficiency, or how to treat it? It's as simple as that. Provide him vitamin B12, right? So providing or supplementing vitamin B12 can be in the form of tablets or injections. When to give tablet, when to give injection. Again, it is just common sense, nothing else. We need to look at what caused the deficiency. If the deficiency is because of inadequate intake, like maybe because of vegan diet, then giving simple vitamin B12 tablets should be good enough. As I told previously, it is a water soluble vitamin, and that is why any excess amount of vitamin B12 will get easily excreted out in the urine. So you don't really need to worry about having overdosage of vitamin B12. So you can take vitamin B12 tablets if the cause of deficiency is inadequate oral intake. Let's look at other situation where It is either pernicious anemia where the antibodies are produced against the intrinsic factor, or it is not going to get absorbed properly because of stomach resection, ileal resection, etc. So if these problems are there, then obviously there's no point giving vitamin B12 tablets, because anyway, even if you give tablet, it's not going to get absorbed. So in these situations, you need to give vitamin B12 injections, or very rarely in case of very severe deficiency, whatever the causes, giving vitamin B12 injections is justifiable. But let me tell you, vitamin B12 injections are really overused. So if somebody is asking you to take vitamin B12 injections, please ask them what exactly is the indication, or at least get your vitamin B12 levels checked. If they are very low, yes, it is justified. If not, giving simple B12 tablets will be more than sufficient. You don't need to take injections. So these were a few important points about this very commonly encountered vitamin, that is vitamin B12. I hope you found this video informative. If so, make sure you give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family. For more such informative videos, subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching.